After my spiritual awakening, I encountered the dark night of the soul. It was a long, depressing, dark experience that continued for what I felt like an eternity. It lasted for 9 years. During the dark night of the soul, I feel a sense of being lost, completely lost. My heart was continuously filled with anxiety, as if my world, with its known habits and conditioning, was coming to an end. This was because after spiritual awakening, my conditioned mind pattern was dying. And while this pattern was dying, my mind made me feel miserable by re-identifying myself with its old dysfunctional patterns. At that time, I was in the initial phase of my awakening experience, and I was unsure about my outer purpose in the world. Now, the things that motivated society no longer encouraged me. Whatever resonated with me before was not resonating with me anymore. My career, habits, relationships, inclinations, likings all fell apart. At the same time, still I felt continuous anxiety or being out of place. It felt like the end of my known world. I was suffering through tremendous physical and emotional pain. A significant reorientation took place in my life, and I pondered what I do with my life. What's my role? What's my relationship with my family? My relationship with my friends, my wife and children? Why is awakening not blissful and free from negative states? And more importantly, I saw the craziness of our civilization and felt somewhat alienated from the society surrounding me. I felt like I existed in a no man's land. I did not feel that I belonged to the inner world of being, nor did I belong to the outer competitive world. Now, due to spiritual awakening, I fluctuated between ego and inner being. Ego and inner being. Ego and inner being. My newly emerging awareness had not yet fully become a part of my daily life. My inner purpose, which is awakening, and my outer purpose, which was functioning in the world, had yet to integrate fully. Whatever meaning my mind had attached to career, relationship, ambition, achievement, etc., was no longer fulfilling. I felt a deep sense of meaninglessness. My inner state was very close to what is conventionally called depression. Nothing made sense to me anymore. Nothing made sense. Now, in case of some people, the dark night of the soul was triggered by some external event, such as the death of the loved one, the loss of business, the loss of possessions, relationships, or anything that their ego had strongly identified with. This results in a dark place for their mind, as their mind lost everything it has identified with. After the dark night of the soul, I emerge out in a transformed state of consciousness. Now life had meaning again, but it was no longer a mind-made meaning I could necessarily explain to you. Now my life was sustained by the being and not the ego. And while my ego was dying, it made every last attempt to make me identified with itself. It made me feel miserable by instilling fear in me, fear of no longer being run by the egoic mind. Why? Because before awakening, I was mind, and now I am not my mind. My center of life changed from mind to being. It changed from mind to being. After the dark night of the soul, I awakened into something more profound, which was no longer based on concepts in my mind. A deeper sense of purpose, no longer dependent on my mind. It was a kind of rebirth for me. The dark night of the soul was a kind of death, that I died. What died was the egoic sense of self. Of course, death is always painful, but nothing real had died there, only an illusory egoic identity. Remember this. A spiritual awakening is the rebirth of everything you are. And the dark night of the soul is the process of dying of everything you are not. Now, presently, if you are in the dark night of the soul, going through pain and suffering like me, I will teach you how to recover from the dark night of the soul in 30 days or less. So you do not have to endure the misery for 9 years like me. Now this involves only 2 spiritual practices, 2. The first practice you do while being engaged in the world, and the second practice you will do as a meditation. So let's start. Let me teach you those 2 practices. Now, whenever you surrender your mind within and rest it in your being, surrender your mind inside being, your nature is love, peace, and joy. Your mind transforms into being itself as the nature of being, which Hindus call Atma and Jesus called the kingdom of heaven, is love, peace, and joy. Now, when you don't surrender your mind to being, your mind only has one function: to think and go outward and identify with thousands of things of the world. When mind goes outward, love turns into comparison by identifying with thoughts, emotions, and worldly objects. When mind goes outward, peace turns into unpeace, that is forgetfulness of being in the form of anxiety and fear. When the mind goes outward, joy becomes suffering as we get lost in the world, reacting to people, events, and circumstances. So you see, our true nature, which is love, peace, and joy, turns into its opposites. Remember this greatest spiritual secret. Even you don't implement anything from this video, remember this one secret. According to the enlightened sage Ramana Maharshi, retaining your mind inward, surrendering to being, and never letting your mind go out is the most direct way to attain enlightenment. Not seeking anything than your being is desirelessness. It's true desirelessness. Not leaving the being and always rest in being is the greatest wisdom. Now you may ask, Abby, how can we constantly retain our mind inside being? We need to put our attention and mind outside to deal with day-to-day activities, right? You might ask to me this. Yes, very good question. Very good question. You see, once you rest your mind in being, your mind transforms into being, and then your life is taken over by the higher power. That higher power that is God itself. Then whatever is required to get done will get done without the mind's judgment and analysis. Remember this. Your mind will create noise that without full attention to the outside world, you will not able to perform on an optimal level. But the opposite is true. By keeping your mind on God, that is your being, God will be the doer of all the worldly activities, not your mind. Then the universe will act through you to manifest its purpose. Now, to retain our mind inward, we need to understand what is spiritual heart. Let's understand spiritual heart. The spiritual heart is the center of being. All the ancient scriptures said that our spiritual heart is slightly on the right side of the chest here. And it's the center of our being. The spiritual heart differs from the physical heart and is the seat of all the spiritual experience. This spiritual heart pervades both inside and outside the world. The spiritual heart is not an organ you locate physically. It is the source of life itself, and one can only be aware of its real nature by being it. The spiritual heart is being, or God, or Atma, whatever you call it, is the essence of the whole universe. Now don't try to locate spiritual heart with the mind's concentration on the right side of your chest. Don't try to locate with your mind concentration. The spiritual heart is beingness, awareness, and it's everywhere. So let's understand what is practice 1 to recover from the dark night of the soul. Let's call it resting in being practice while engaging in the world. If you want to abide in the spiritual heart, just let your attention rest in the inner chest, the full inner chest, all the time while engaged in the world here. Ensure you have 80% of your attention always inside you. 80% attention inside you. At first, it's difficult for the mind, but even 50% attention is enough initially. So the only practice you require is rest your attention in the inner chest and make that your lifelong practice. So you rest your attention in the inner chest and do day-to-day activity. You can call it resting in being. Now, if you cannot be able to rest your mind inside your inner chest, you can take 2 conscious breaths. Whenever you realize you are not present, conscious breath itself is a powerful meditation. It will immediately bring your mind into the present moment. And then slowly, you can feel your chest in the form of your inner body and anchor your attention over there while doing your daily activities. Practice number 2, resting in being practice as meditation. Now sit in a comfortable position, or you can lie flat on your back. Close your eyes. Choose different parts of your body to focus your attention. Start with your head, hands, feet in the top to bottom order and then bottom to top. Scan the whole body that way. Be with each part for 5 to 10 seconds. Feel the life energy inside those parts as intensely as you can. Run your attention through the body like a wave a few times. From feet to head and back again. Feet to head and back again. It will take a couple of minutes. After that, feel the inner body as a single field of energy in its totality. Feel your inner body. Abide in that feeling. Rest in that feeling. Be intensely present in the moment with every cell of your body. Go beyond your inner chest and transcend the outer and inner body completely. Now, when you go deeper like that, inside, you might feel a void, spaciousness, or emptiness, and that is beautiful. In that state, there is no future or past. Hence, there is no human. The intense presence is being itself. Don't get distracted by wandering thoughts, and even if they occasionally take you out of your body, thoughts take you out of your body, once you notice that thought is taking over you, simply return your attention to inner body and transcend the inner body too, as explained before. You can do this meditation for a total of 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Meditation is not a substitute for the moment-to-moment practice of resting in being. That is, putting your attention inside your inner chest while engaged in the world. Once you do these two practices, your mind will dissolve in being and become being. Then you will recover from the dark night of the soul, as your mind will not identify you with thousands of things of the world. Now your life will be operated under a power of being. That is God itself. And this way, you will be finally free from the dark night of the soul. Thank you.